There is a common myth that your cells regenerate at different times, but by 7 years every part of your body has regenerated. While it's a lovely thought of leaving the old you behind, it's downright false. There are some parts which stay the same forever, like your teeth enamel, while some change a lot, like your skin cells. But you know something that doesn't change very much but very easily can? Game design. Enter Paladins. To say somewhere in the development process there were some decisions made which favoured one thing over the other goes without saying. What's the colour palette of the background? What's the cultural design originate from? Or what will the facial features be for the characters? And of course, what is our final version? To understand how the design the way it is in Paladins, we shall use Pip as the main point. You'll see why as the video progresses. So, starting on 15th November of 2015, Hi-Res Stew posted on the Paladins forums. It was titled How Hi-Res Makes Games and Expectations for Beta. In the post, it gives a bit of backstory of how Hi-Res started, how Hi-Res Studios is a company with a different philosophy, which basically is the free-to-play game future, and below it were some principles that follow when you're making games. I will now list all the principles word to word and leave the link in the description to the post. Now let's make one thing clear right from the beginning. Some people will comment on how Hi-Res don't follow their own principles. I mean, it will happen, it always does. These principles were listed for the video and video alone. Don't start to attack them in the comments, it's not needed. Continuing on. Number 1. Start public testing as early as you can and let the community shape the game's development. Number 2. No game is ever done. Labels such as closed beta, open beta, released are mostly artificial marketing milestones. Number 3. Be open. Number 4. Don't be afraid to try lots of crazy shit while you're in beta. Number 5. Initially worry most about the gameplay and fun. We can improve the art quality and general polish later on. Number 6. Patch frequently. Add new content constantly and learn from each patch. Number 7. When you're in number 6, bugs and balance issues will happen. Number 8. Use data and stats religiously to mine insights on player behavior. Number 9. Let people play with their friends. And number 10. Make money, but do so in a fair way that respects your community. With all of that out of the way, let's focus on some principles in particular. Number 1. Start early testing. Number 3. Be open. Number 4. Lots of crazy stuff. And number 5. Gameplay first. One of the first Pip gameplays we saw ever was actually on August 3rd of 2015. It was posted by IGN on the YouTube channel and very boringly named Paladins 23 minutes of Pip gameplay. Depending on what phase you started to play Paladins, some of things might look similar, some could be a bit changed in front of you, and for a big fraction of you I believe everything you see will be absolutely new. Now, Paladins has had a very complicated history. So complicated in fact, I've made a video on it when season 1 was announced. I'm not going to show you the details here as I've already listed them before, so if you really want to know about the history of Paladins, click on the top right hand side now. But to explain the point, I have to delve in a little bit. Abilities were vague and the real bulk of the game was the cards. As an example, let's use Skye. Her time bomb was a normal ability, the non-throwable version. Now some cards change the ability into doing many wacky things, making the bomb radius 50% smaller, but now it's stuck to an enemy, or changing the damage from instant to damage over time, and just wonderful things like that. Now you have an idea what the cards were capable of, let's look into Pip's past abilities. Well, his initial ones at least. This is Pip's abilities in closed alpha. Explosive Flask, Elixir, Scurry, and Mount. Notice 2 things here. Number 1, you could mount up anytime you wanted to. That was the secondary movement ability that was shared by all the champions. And number 2, the big one, there are no ultimates. Not yet. The abilities haven't changed much over many iterations of the game, but some have changed. For starters, Scurry was essentially half what Weightless is. It allowed you to travel at a much faster speed, but not the jump factor. But we have to remember the initial rules laid out by Hi-Res themselves. Try crazy things, gameplay first, and be open. So the mechanics are expected to change over time, and well, they still are. However, something that's not expected to change much is the art design. And well, just look at him. For starters, Pip looks a lot older than he does now. You can see the white accents in his hair, Harry Potter-like glasses, basically round glasses, a spellbook which I'm assuming, and lastly a very heavy backpack. But when Paladins went live in closed beta, Pip had been completely reworked art-wise. We'll get back to that soon. Coming back to the abilities, the Pip we know was actually implemented in CB12, the Chicken Patch. The names of the abilities were changed as well, and well, Pip became the fertile Vulpine he is today. Elixir became Healing Potion, Scurry became Weightless, and Evil Mojo was added, hence the name Chicken Patch. Now, for those paying attention, you will see a slight shift. Alpha Pip was a scientist with a touch of an ancient feel. The new Pip was a scientist with a modern feel. Elixir for Healing Potion, Scurry for Weightless, and frankly everything else about him. His glasses are now dropped and they're goggles. He no longer has a backpack, and the bulk of the book is also gone. He now instead opts for Explosive Flask Belt on his body instead. It's fair to say a shift was made, and it was done for the best. Looking at the Pip alpha play now, you can sort of tell that Pip in the alpha wasn't really fitting in the game. Just think about it. We have a fox-like creature called the Vulpines, who has scientific meddlings. He has a spellbook, a heavy backpack, or a gizmos which looks pretty old. He has old cryptographer style glasses, and one of his abilities makes an old man run very fast. From a design perspective, it didn't make sense. Mashing in a lot of things with one ability is not a great idea. Looking is another example of this. Charlene in the patch stream for CB37. Back in the patch stream, Charlene was exactly the champion he is now, except for one big change. Charlene had an extra utility in his kit, his Impaler Arrow. If his Impaler Arrow didn't hit an enemy, but instead just hit surface, a sand pillar would be spawned. This would be used for multiple things, like blocking doors, paths, or just create hurdles in general. So, again, starting from the beginning, you have a bow and arrow champion who can go invisible, shoot arrows, and become a turret on a simple command. In his ultimate, he goes invisible, but whenever he shoots, he makes illusions of himself. Then his ultimate fire, which knocks people back, but if they're knocked into a wall, they get stunned. However, if you didn't stun someone and instead use Impaler Arrow on a surface, it would make pillars to do whatever you want. The problem here was that there was a lot happening in one character, so it was in the best interest of the developers and the players that the pillars were not implemented in the game. Not yet, at least. Coming back to Alpha Pip and how he's not in the game. Well, that's not entirely true, is it? That Pip got carried over into a new champion altogether, and this is a good time to make a video on him as well. He got his first ever epic skin in the game. Yes, Torvald is essentially Alpha Pip 2.0. The hair, the glasses, the backpack are all there. His robes are back, and frankly he fits in better with the old mad scientist role. But Torvald is more than just an old mad scientist. When I asked Hyra's Holt, the art director for Paladins, about the Alpha Pip and Torvald, this was his response. We've been wanting to get mad scientist type passion into a character and had always wanted to push the more traditional aspect of magic, runes, relics, scholars. He was a great blend of these two. It was wise to change Pip back, and it would have been unwise to try and cram so much into one character. And for what exactly? The game is set in a fantasy world with a mixture of realism. What this means for the game is that you can have literally anything in the game with the right context. With all of this, it doesn't really make sense to cram in anything anywhere. The game is a living world. Every patch means a new addition to this world, making it much more vibrant and, well, more alive. Why else do you think people want lore in the game? The general masses want to connect and make a connection with the champions. If you're a developer and you see hundreds, if not thousands of people want to know deeply about your game and want to connect with the characters that you created, you know you're on something special and have done a very good job at designing the game. What we do know for sure is that Paladins is not the game it was set out to be. It changed somewhere in the middle, and frankly, it changed for the best. We can get all nostalgic about the good old times with our favorite friend Pip, but that won't help us make the game the best game it can possibly be.